With a $1 million view of Victoria's Inner Harbour, this 150-year-old piece of history has some of the best seats in the house. But with the walls showing signs of neglect and greenery making itself comfortable, if you didn't know any better, the northern junk buildings look like they don't have much of a future.
You could certainly make them much more attractive than they are now. They have been sorely neglected for 30 or more years since there was any real use to them.
But behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. Developers are busy planning a makeover of the waterfront property that could see an important piece of Victoria's history brought back to life.
These buildings, of course, 1862, these buildings were sitting here. Barkerville was just booming then. Gold was discovered up there. Those people needed tools and equipment. Here you had a wharf, here you had the buildings to serve those needs. That's what they were built for. These buildings were put aside, and there's still a sign here today, still reflect that gold rush era. You can see there's the old windows.
Victoria's Hallmark Heritage Society says the northern junk buildings have the potential to be restored as an important gateway to Victoria's Old Town neighborhood. But the society isn't happy with a $25 million redevelopment proposal currently before the City of Victoria.
We just think it's just too big and is a poor design for this area and does not meet the Old Town design guidelines. Now, we can differ in opinion upon what those design guidelines say, but this is really a massive building and does not pay any respect to the Old Town at all.
Reliance Properties says it's proposing a 5-story residential and commercial building that wraps around the 2 heritage buildings. The design also calls for a public waterfront walkway and is being recommended for approval by city staff.
Probably one of the last buildings in the city.
But the Hallmark Society says council needs to take a second look at the design so the heritage buildings don't end up lost and out of sight.
There maybe should be breaks between the buildings, breaks that you can actually walk through and see through for all the floors, not just at ground level, not just like little tunnels going through the building. I think we need something between these buildings.
So with the potential development around the northern junk buildings and a new Johnston Street bridge, big changes are coming to Victoria's Old Town. The Union condo complex is almost underway, and across Fiskard Street, the Chapman Motors property is up for sale.
It's probably the largest remaining property that is undeveloped in Old Town if you don't count the parking lots. And so it has the potential to have something quite extraordinary on it. Of course, no one's bought it yet, so we have no idea. But that certainly is going to change over the next few years. The Ewanyshyn building is up for sale. We're very hopeful that someone will be interested in looking at that with an eye to preserving the structures, at least externally.
And with a new bridge just a few years away, be prepared to see big changes if you drive, bike, or walk in the area. One example, the road approaching the bridge will be much closer to the Ewanyshyn building.
Looking now down Pandora, as you walk or drive down Pandora, you look right into the Blue Bridge. In a few years, as you drive down Pandora, you'll be looking into space. Because as the bridge moves north, I believe it's about 11 meters, you will now have a new view corridor at the west side, west end of Pandora and Johnston.
But Alto says any changes to Old Town will have to follow strict city guidelines.
Generally speaking, there's not an interest in trying to duplicate fake-looking historical stuff, but stuff that is compatible in a way which has a modern-looking infrastructure, but also is complementary to the Old Town. So there are specific rules and regulations about what you can build here, but I think what you will see is a much higher density, much more of a sense of creating a live and work and play space.
As for the redevelopment of the northern junk buildings, Councillor Alto says it could go to a public hearing sometime in March, where she expects strong opinions on both sides. She says she hasn't made up her mind yet, but expects council to be divided on the issue. In Victoria, I'm Nikki Ewanyshyn for The Daily.